The email arrived at 2:47 a.m., exactly 8 weeks after Sarah Mitchell's shoulder surgery. She'd been awake anyway. Phantom pain from the missing muscle tissue always peaked around 3 a.m., like clockwork. The sender's address made her blood run cold. Angel Shoulder Namiltcom. She hadn't told anyone about the angel wing tattoo she'd gotten at 19, hidden right where they'd carved away 40% of her deltoid muscle. The subject line read, Timeline 847. Intervention required. Sarah's good hand trembled as she clicked open the message. A single image loaded an X-ray of a left shoulder, damaged in the exact pattern as hers. But the timestamp at the bottom showed March 15th, 21. 3 years before her injury. What the hell? Her apartment door clicked. Not a knock. The sound of a key turning. Sarah grabbed the baseball bat she'd kept by her bed since coming home from the hospital. Her left arm hung useless, but her right still worked fine. The door opened to reveal Emma, her daughter, fully dressed at 3 a.m., holding a medical kit that looked far too professional for a Seattle pediatric nurse to own. "Mom, we need to talk," Emma said, her voice steady in a way that made Sarah's skin crawl. "And before you ask, yes, I've been the one leaving food. Yes, I've been watching you. And yes, I know about the others. Others?" Emma set the medical kit on the kitchen counter with practiced precision. Rodriguez didn't try to hurt herself because she was weak. Mom, she saw something she wasn't supposed to see. The same thing you're about to learn. Sarah lowered the bat but didn't let go. "Emmy, what's happening? You're scaring me." "Good. Fear keeps you alive." Emma pulled out her phone, swiped to an app Sarah didn't recognize, all geometric patterns and pulsing blue lines. "Remember the night you collapsed? You didn't call 911. You couldn't have. You were unconscious when I found you. But the paramedics said someone called." "Someone did, Rodriguez, from her bedroom 15 miles away. At the exact moment your blood pressure crashed." Emma turned the phone screen toward her mother. On it, a video played Rodriguez, sitting bolt upright in bed, eyes rolled back to show only whites, speaking in a voice not quite her own. 1847 Maple Street, apartment 3B, necrotizing fasciitis. 3 minutes until cardiac arrest. Sarah's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch, the bat rolling away across the floor. "That's not possible. Yesterday's impossible is today's quantum entanglement." "Mom," while Emma sat beside her. And for the first time, Sarah noticed the scars on her daughter's wrists. Not the straight lines of self-harm, but strange, geometric patterns that seemed to pulse in the dim light. "The infection didn't just eat your shoulder. It opened something, a connection. And you're not the only one." The phone in Sarah's hand buzzed. Another email from Angel Shoulder Naya. This time, the subject line made her stomach turn. Sarah Mitchell, no, wait, 48. Incoming in 4 minutes. Emma checked her watch. "We need to get to the basement now." "The basement? Our building doesn't have." Emma was already moving, pulling a painting aside to reveal a keypad Sarah had never seen before. "It does now, or it always did, depending on which timeline you're from." She typed in a code, Sarah's birthday, backward. "The real question is, are you ready to meet yourself?" The wall swung inward, revealing stairs that descended into blue-white light. From below, Sarah could hear voices, familiar voices. Her own voice, multiplied. "Mom," Emma said, extending her hand. "I know this is insane. I know you're scared, but down there are 47 versions of you, all missing the same shoulder muscle, all saved by the same network, all asking the same question." "What question?" Emma's eyes held a sadness too deep for her 28 years. "Why do the proudest ones break in exactly the same place? The footsteps were coming up the stairs now, multiple sets, all slightly out of sync. Sarah grabbed Emma's hand with her good arm, feeling the raised scars under her fingers, scars that suddenly felt less like wounds and more like circuits. "Timeline 88 approaching," the phone announced in a voice that sounded like Sarah's own, but older, more tired. "Intervention probability 70. Survival without intervention." The first figure emerged from the stairwell. Sarah found herself looking into her own eyes, but these eyes had seen more, aged differently. This Sarah wore all black, her left arm not hanging useless, but completely gone, replaced by something that hummed with barely contained energy. "Hello? Number 847, the other Sarah said. "We have 3 minutes to save your life. The infection was just the beginning. What comes next is why we built all of this." Behind her, more Sarahs emerged, some older, some younger, some with cybernetic replacements, others with scars that glowed like Emma's, all of them missing pieces, all of them transformed by their losses into something else entirely. "We call ourselves the Shoulder Angels," the first other Sarah continued, and despite everything, she smiled. "And tonight, you're going to help us break the cycle that's been killing women like us for generations across every possible timeline." Sarah's phone showed 2:52 a.m. In 8 minutes. Somewhere in another timeline, another Sarah Mitchell would pick up a sewing needle. But this time, they'd be ready. This time, they'd intervene. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The lead Sarah's mechanical arm whirred, fingers spreading to reveal a holographic display. Blue light painted the walls of Sarah's apartment with moving data streams, heart rates, GPS coordinates, timestamps cascading like rain. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. The lead Sarah said, "Timeline 8 Fate, Madison, Wisconsin. Catherine Chen, 34, mother of 2. Diabetic abscess on her lower back. She's heating a sewing needle over her stove right now." Sarah's stomach acid burned her throat. The smell of her own fear sweat mixed with something else ozone, like before a lightning strike. The other Sarahs moved with practiced synchronization, pulling devices from hidden pockets. One looked exactly like Sarah, except for burn scars covering half her face. "Mom, you need to see this." Emma's fingers flew across her phone screen. The geometric patterns shifted, forming a 3-dimensional map. Red dots pulsed across what looked like a spiderweb made of light. Each dot is someone about to self-treat. The web shows probability threads. "How many?" Sarah's voice came out strangled. Right now, across all tracked timelines, Emma zoomed out. The web exploded into thousands of red points, 473 in the next hour alone. The burned Sarah stepped forward. Her breath smelled like hospital disinfectant and cigarettes. "We can save 12, maybe 15 if we split teams." She pulled up her sleeve. Where her shoulder should be, a mass of scar tissue formed patterns that matched Emma's wrist scars exactly. The quantum scarring links us. Every Sarah who survives becomes a node. Sarah's missing muscle tissue throbbed, impossible, but undeniable. The phantom pain synced with the pulsing of the holographic display. Each pulse brought a flash of sensation. A woman crying in a bathroom in Tokyo, a teenager in Mumbai pressing a safety pin into infected tissue, an elderly man in Sao Paulo mixing bleach with hydrogen peroxide. 1 minute 30, the lead Sarah announced. Her mechanical fingers twisted, producing a syringe filled with luminescent blue fluid. First injection creates the quantum bridge. You'll feel everything she feels. Then we pull her through. Pull her through. Sarah's good hand gripped the couch cushion until her knuckles went white. "You mean we switch places temporarily?" The burned Sarah lit a cigarette with her fingertip actual flame sprouting from scarred flesh. Catherine Chen gets 20 minutes in your body while we fix hers. You experience her timeline. Fair warning. She exhaled smoke that glowed faintly blue. Her husband hits her. The phone screen flickered. Catherine Chen's image appeared, exhausted eyes, unwashed hair, bruise yellowing on her left cheekbone. In her hand, the needle glowed cherry red. 40 seconds, Emma whispered. Mom, we need your decision now. The syringe pierced Sarah's neck. Ice flooded her jugular, spreading through her skull like frozen mercury. Her teeth chattered so hard she tasted blood from where she'd bitten her tongue. The apartment warped, walls stretched like taffy, colors bleeding into frequencies her eyes couldn't process. The other Sarahs multiplied, divided, overlapped 1,000 versions of her missing shoulder, creating a void that pulled at reality. Then impact. Sarah's consciousness slammed into foreign flesh. Wrong body, wrong weight, wrong pain. Her lower back screamed with infection, hot, swollen, pus pressing against skin from inside. The smell hit next sour milk and rotting meat. Catherine Chen's bathroom in Madison, Wisconsin. Cracked linoleum under bare feet, the needle cooling in Catherine's trembling fingers. No, that Sarah tried to speak with Catherine's mouth, but the woman's muscle memory was already moving. The needle touched infected skin. Lightning shot up Sarah's spine. Back in her apartment, Sarah's real body convulsed. Emma held her head while the lead Sarah worked. Quantum bridge established. We have 18 minutes. The burned Sarah was already moving, pulling Catherine's consciousness into Sarah's body. Catherine's scream, coming from Sarah's throat, echoed off the walls. What's happening to my babies? Catherine's voice, Sarah's vocal cords. Where am I? Who are you? You're safe, Emma said, pressing a sedative patch to Sarah's neck. We're helping you. Your children are sleeping. Everything's going to be okay. Sarah, trapped in Catherine's body, watched her own hands. Catherine's hands dropped the needle. The bathroom door rattled. Male voice slurred with alcohol. Katie, what the fuck are you doing in there? The doorknob turned. No lock. Catherine's husband, 6'3", 240 pounds, pushed inside. His breath reeked of whiskey and gas station beef jerky. Construction dust in his hair, dried concrete under his fingernails. You crying again? His hand grabbed Sarah's infected shoulder. Squeezed. The abscess ruptured internally, pus flooding deeper tissue layers. Sarah's vision went white. The other Sarahs materialized in Catherine's bathroom. Quantum echoes only Sarah could see. The burned Sarah's ghostly form overlapped with the husband. We can't physically intervene. Not yet. You have to survive 3 more minutes. The husband's fist connected with Catherine's stomach. Sarah doubled over, tasting bile. Catherine's muscle memory wanted to apologize, to make herself smaller. Sarah fought it, using her coaching voice. The children will hear. Wrong move. His hand wrapped around Catherine's throat, slamming her against the mirror. It cracked. Glass cutting into the infected abscess. Blood and pus ran down Catherine's spine, soaking through the thin nightgown. 2 minutes, the burned Sarah whispered. The infection spreading faster. Sepsis in 90 seconds, without intervention. Sarah felt its cells dying, bacteria multiplying, Catherine's immune system failing. The husband's grip tightened. Black spots exploded across Sarah's borrowed vision. Catherine's lungs burned, heart hammering against ribs that had been broken before Sarah could feel the old fracture lines. The burned Sarah's ghost form moved through the husband, leaving frost patterns on his skin. He shivered, loosened his grip. Sarah gasped. Catherine's throat raw and swelling. You gonna clean yourself up, or do I need to teach you another lesson? Sarah nodded with Catherine's head. Keeping Catherine's eyes down, submission, survival. The husband left, slamming the door hard enough to knock toiletries off the sink. 30 seconds! The lead Sarah's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Sarah pressed Catherine's palm against the infected wound. The pain registered in colors purple-black agony, spreading like ink through water. She felt the exact moment the bacteria hit Catherine's bloodstream. Fever spiked instantly. 102 and 103. 104 degrees in seconds. The quantum bridge shuddered. Reality folded. Sarah slammed back into her own body. Catherine Chen collapsed in her apartment. Sarah's apartment. Emma catching her before she hit the floor. The woman's back was a disaster zone of infection. But she was here. Safe. Get her to the surgical unit, the lead Sarah commanded. 2 other Sarahs lifted Catherine, carrying her down the hidden stairs. 40 minutes to clean the infection before organ failure. Sarah vomited into the trash can Emma held. Her throat felt like Catherine's bruises. Phantom fingers still squeezing. Her husband, timeline 8/8 split, the burned Sarah said. The version where Catherine dies. He goes to prison. Murder 2. The version where she lives. She tapped her scarred temple. She leaves him in 6 months. Takes the kids to her sister in California. How do you know? Because I lived through timeline 21 where the same thing happened. Husband was named Derek. My Derek died in a workplace accident 2 days after I left. The burned Sarah lit another cigarette. Crushed by a malfunctioning crane that passed inspection the day before. Emma helped Sarah to the couch. Mom, you did it. Catherine's going to live. But Sarah's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She could still feel Catherine's body. Every bruise, every old break, the infection eating through muscle. There are thousands more. Right now. Happening right now. Yes, the lead Sarah said, her mechanical arm reconfigured, displaying new data, which is why we need to talk about Rodriguez. Sarah's head snapped up. What about her? She didn't just see something she shouldn't have. The lead Sarah pulled up security footage on the holographic display. She's been dreaming about the other timelines since she was 12. Every time someone dies from prideful self-treatment, she feels it. All of them simultaneously. The footage showed Rodriguez in the psychiatric ward, arms restrained, screaming numbers 847, 848, 849. Stop, please stop. They're dying, all dying. The shoulders, the backs, the infections. Stop. She's not crazy, Emma said quietly. She's a natural receiver. No quantum scarring needed. Sarah stood, ignoring her body's protests. We have to get her out. We can't. The burned Sarah exhaled smoke that formed numbers in the air. Casualty statistics. She's the anchor. Every timeline needs one. Someone who feels everything, holds all the threads together. Without her, the whole network collapses. You're torturing her. She's saving hundreds of lives every day. The lead Sarah's mechanical fingers clicked against each other. But yes, she's also dying. The human mind can only process so much parallel suffering before it breaks completely. Sarah's phone buzzed. Another email from Angel Shoulder 99. This time, the subject line was different. Timeline 00. Original sin located. Every other Sarah in the room froze. The temperature dropped 10 degrees instantly. That's not possible, the burned Sarah whispered. We destroyed timeline 0. The lead Sarah's mechanical arm sparked, display flickering between realities. Someone's been lying to us. On the screen, an image loaded Sarah's grandmother standing in a 1953 hospital, shoulder bandaged in the exact same place. Behind her, in the shadows, Emma's face, but Emma as she was now, not aged to match the time frame. Mom, Emma said, but her voice had changed, older, colder. "There's something I haven't told you about why Dad really left." Emma's pupils dilated, wrong horizontal slits for half a second before snapping back to human circles. Sarah's damaged shoulder nerve fired phantom signals, making her fingers twitch in patterns that matched the geometric scars on Emma's wrists. "Dad found me in the basement with Grandma Rose." Emma's voice carried harmonics Sarah had never noticed before, like multiple recordings played slightly out of sync. 3 days before she died, I was 7. He saw me holding her hand while she injected herself with something that glowed blue. The burned Sarah stepped between them, cigarette ember reflecting off her melted flesh. "You said you were recruited 3 years ago. After your own infection. I said I was saved 3 years ago." Emma pulled off her cardigan. The scars ran up both arms, across her shoulders, down her spine, visible through her thin shirt, like a circuit board made of raised flesh. "I never said it was my first time." Sarah's throat closed. The apartment air tasted like copper and ozone. "Rose died of a stroke." "Natural causes. I was at her funeral. I saw." "You saw what timeline 447 needed you to see." Emma touched the wall, and Sarah's paint peeled away to reveal more keypads, more hidden panels. Grandma Rose was patient 0 for this iteration, the first to successfully bridge timelines without dying. Dad saw her teach me the injection process, saw me help her cross over. He ran, changed his name, disappeared into timeline 1026, where neither of us ever existed. The lead, Sarah's mechanical arm sparked, projecting new data. Sarah's grandmother appeared in dozens of photos across decades, always the same age, always with the same shoulder injury, always in different hospitals. 1994, 91, 2003. Impossible. Sarah's bile rose again. She aged. I watched her age. You watched one version age. Emma's fingers traced her scars, and they lit up sequentially, blue light pulsing under skin. The others kept cycling, kept jumping, kept recruiting, building the network across timelines, searching for something. For what? Emma smiled. But it was wrong, too wide, too many teeth visible, for the timeline where nobody has to die alone, where asking for help doesn't require quantum intervention, where pride doesn't kill. The burned Sarah dropped her cigarette, crushed it under her heel. Bullshit. I've been through 200 jumps. That timeline doesn't exist. It does. Emma pulled out her phone, swiped to an app that hurt to look at colors that shouldn't exist. Interface elements that folded through dimensions Sarah couldn't perceive. Timeline irrelevant. The original. Before the first split, before Grandma Rose found the injection, before any of us started breaking. Sarah's phone buzzed. Security footage from her apartment building, time-stamped the night of her infection. 3 figures in black entered through the lobby. The video glitched, rip-bumped. The same 3 figures, but now Sarah could see under their hoods Emma, the burned Sarah, and Sarah herself, but older, grayer, mechanical arms on both sides. That's not possible. I was dying on my bathroom floor. You were... Emma zoomed in on the timestamp. It flickered between multiple dates, 24/2087. Time isn't linear when you're bridging. We can arrive before we leave, save ourselves before we die, exist in loops that have no beginning. Sarah's working hand grabbed the coffee table for support. The wood felt soft, unstable, like reality was negotiating with itself about whether the table existed. The private investigator I hired, did he find Marcus Chen isn't a private investigator? The lead Sarah's display showed Marcus in the psychiatric ward, sitting with Rodriguez, both their eyes rolled back, both speaking in unison. He's a natural anchor, like Rodriguez, except he learned to compartmentalize. Each personality handles a different timeline stream. Emma knelt beside Sarah, and her proximity made Sarah's phantom nerves scream. "Mom, I need you to understand. Every woman in our family has died from the same infection, in the same place, at the same age, 52. Your 52nd birthday was last month. But I survived because we intervened, because Rodriguez felt you dying across 40 timelines simultaneously and screamed loud enough to wake me in Seattle." Emma's tears glowed faintly blue. "But timelines are in the original that Sarah dies tomorrow, and when she does, the cascade failure begins." The apartment shook, not an earthquake reality hiccuping. The other Sarahs flickered in and out of existence. Catherine Chen's blood still stained the floor, but now it was also Sarah's blood, and Rose's blood, and blood from women not yet born. "Show me," Sarah said. Emma's scarred fingers hesitated over her phone. "Mom, if you see it, show me." The screen shifted. Sarah saw herself. Timeline Dill in a hospital room she recognized but had never been in. Machines surrounding her, tubes everywhere, shoulder gone. Chest opened up, infection visible like black branches spreading under skin. Emma was there, but younger, unscarred. Dan was there, the husband who'd left, holding this other Sarah's hand. Rodriguez stood in the corner, not a patient, but a doctor. White coat over familiar shoulders. "She has 6 hours." Timeline Zerrador. Rodriguez said, "The infection's reached her heart. When she dies, every Sarah connected to the network will feel it. The feedback loop will kill them all." "Unless," Emma said, standing, her scars now blazing with light that made Sarah's retinas ache. "We do what Grandma Rose always planned. We collapse all the timelines into one, every Sarah, living and dead, merged into a single consciousness that can't die, because it exists across all possible realities simultaneously." Sarah's missing muscle tissue burned with phantom fire. "That's not survival. That's godhood," the burned Sarah finished. "Or madness. Nobody's survived the merge to tell us which." Marcus Chen walked through the apartment door without opening it, his body phase shifting between solid and translucent. Behind him, Rodriguez floated 3 inches off the floor, eyes pure white, speaking in the voice of 1,000 dying women. 5 hours, 58 minutes until cascade failure. The injection is prepared. The choice is yours, Sarah, 847. Emma held up a syringe filled with something that wasn't liquid or gas, but somehow both. Neither. More inside a kit. Sarah could see her grandmother's face, her own face, Emma's face, faces of women she'd never met but whose shoulders all bore the same scar. "Mom," Emma said, but now Sarah heard it in stereo, from her daughter and from the syringe itself. "Timeline Zildjian is dying now, right now. Can you feel her, Sarah? Could pain, like nothing she'd survived, spreading from a shoulder that no longer existed in a timeline that might never have been real. She felt herself dying 6 hours in the future and 20 years in the past simultaneously. "If I take the injection, you become the anchor for all timelines. Every Sarah who ever lived or will live, thinking your thoughts, feeling your pain, saving lives through quantum entanglement across infinite realities." Emma's tears were falling sideways now, gravity confused by the temporal distortions. "Or you die, completely, finally, and we start over with Sarah 849. The syringe pulsed with the heartbeat of every Sarah in every timeline. Sarah reached for it with her good hand, then it stopped. "Wait!" her eyes locked on Marcus Chin, who was cycling through ethnicities as different timeline versions of him overlapped. "You said timeline 00 was destroyed. Someone lied. Who?" Marcus smiled with 8 mouths simultaneously. "The real question, Sarah 847, is not who lied. It's why timeline Durham's Emma is the only one without scars." The syringe slipped from Emma's fingers. It fell wrong sideways through air, accelerating and decelerating simultaneously. When it hit the floor, the sound came before the impact, a reverse echo that made Sarah's teeth ache. No scars. Sarah's tongue felt thick, numb. The words tasted like metal and antimicrobial soap. Timeline 00. Emma has no scars because she never needed saving. Emma's face rippled, not metaphorically, actual waves passing through her flesh like wind through water. For 3 heartbeats, Sarah saw another face underneath, older, harder, eyes that had watched universes collapse. "Mom." Emma's voice cracked, split into frequencies. One Emma, young, crying, "Why?" Another Emma, ancient, laughing. "You're so close to understanding." Rodriguez convulsed in midair, her white eyes projecting images onto the apartment walls. Timeline, a Giuseppe's hospital room. The dying Sarah. Tubes everywhere. But now Sarah could see what she'd missed. Timeline 00. Emma stood perfectly still while everyone else moved. No tears, no trembling, just watching her mother die with the patience of someone waiting for water to boil. "She's not trying to save her," Sarah whispered. Her phantom shoulder blazed with new pain, not infection, but knowledge, burning through dead nerves. Timeline 00. Emma wants her mother to die. The burned Sarah pulled another cigarette from nowhere, lit it with her finger. The smoke formed numbers in the air. 01, 02, counting up rapidly. Every timeline splits from a death. Sarah dies. Reality fractures. New possibilities emerge. We thought we were saving people. You are saving people. Emma's scars pulsed faster. Blue light strobing through skin. Just not the way you think. Marcus' chin solidified into a single body, his face gray with exhaustion. Show her the basement, the real basement. Marcus, don't! Emma reached for him, but her hand passed through his chest. She was flickering now, losing cohesion. 53 years. Marcus pulled up his sleeve. His arm was covered in tally marks carved directly into skin, some fresh, some decades old. 53 years I've been the anchor, feeling every death, every split, every Sarah who believes she's saving the world. You want to know what's in the basement? The truth about little Emmy and Grandma Rose's perfect plan. The floor beneath Sarah's feet turned transparent. Through it, she saw levels descending into impossible depths. Each floor held bodies, hundreds of them, suspended in blue fluid, all missing the same shoulder muscle, all female, all ages from 20 to 90. Failed mergers, the lead Sarah said, her mechanical arm sparking violently. Sarah's who took the injection but couldn't handle convergence. Their consciousness scattered across timelines, bodies kept alive as processing nodes. Sarah's working hand pressed against the transparent floor. It was warm, blood temperature. How many? All of them. Emma's form solidified again, but wrong, too tall. Features shifting between child and crone. Every Sarah from timelines 1 through 8 to 6, you're the only one still walking around because we needed someone the original Emma would trust. The apartment walls dissolved. Sarah stood in a vast chamber, industrial and medical combined. The other Sarah's dozens of versions she'd thought were real revealed themselves as projections emanating from the suspended bodies below. The burned Sarah, the lead Sarah. All of them just neural echoes from the failed merges. But I touched them, felt them. Quantum entanglement doesn't distinguish between flesh and focused thought. Emma's scars began peeling away like old paint, revealing smooth skin underneath, not her skin, too perfect, too symmetrical. Mom, I need you to understand, this isn't torture. It's evolution. Grandma Rose saw it first. Individual consciousness is a cage. We're building something better. Rodriguez crashed to the floor, seizure stopping instantly. She gasped, coughed blood, looked at Sarah with eyes that were finally clear. Don't trust. Either Emma, they're both. A blue flash. Rodriguez's eyes rolled back again, body rigid. 5 hours until cascade failure, Marcus announced, though his lips didn't move. The voice came from the walls, the floor, the suspended bodies below. Timeline zeros and Sarah dies, and either we complete the merge or everything collapses. Sarah backed against what had been her couch, now revealed as a medical gurney disguised by holographic projection. The injection. What does it really do? Emma picked up the syringe, which had never actually fallen. It connects you to the network permanently. Every thought, every feeling, every memory becomes shared data. You'll save lives. Mom, thousands of them. By becoming part of the collective that monitors, intervenes, prevents these deaths across all timelines. A hive mind, a family. Emma stepped closer. Her breath smelled like nothing, no coffee, no toothpaste, no human scent at all. The way Grandma Rose imagined it, no one alone, ever. No one too proud to ask for help because the help comes before you know you need it. Sarah's phone vibrated against her ribs. New message. Impossible, send her own number. She pulled it out with trembling fingers. The screen showed her bathroom. 3 months ago, the night she'd tried to treat the infection herself. But this angle was wrong from inside the mirror. Looking out, in the reflection, she saw Emma standing behind her past self, holding a syringe identical to the one she held now. You infected me? The words came out steady, despite Sarah's lungs forgetting how to expand. You caused the infection. I created the opportunity for transformation. Emma's perfect features didn't change expression, just like Grandma Rose did for me, like her mother did for her. 7 generations of women, all connected through the same wound, the same pride, the same breaking point. The suspended bodies below began to move tiny twitches, fingers curling, lips forming soundless words. Sarah heard them anyway, directly in her skull. Join us, join us, join us. But Rodriguez saw. Sarah stopped. Understanding hit like ice water in her veins. Rodriguez didn't call 911 for me. She called it for Catherine Chen in Timeline 88. I was never supposed to survive. You kept me alive because Timeline 00 and Emma needed a backup. The Emma in front of her smiled, and for 1 second, Sarah saw through the projection to what stood beneath something that had never been human, made of angles that shouldn't exist and colors that had no names. If her mother wouldn't die naturally to trigger the cascade, she needed another Sarah who could be convinced to merge willingly. Marcus Chen's body split into 3 versions of himself, each speaking in harmony. 20 minutes ago, Timeline ruined. Emma injected her dying mother with the merge serum without consent. The cascade has already begun. You can feel it, can't you? Sarah could. Deep in her missing shoulder, sensation erupted, not pain but presence. Hundreds of consciousnesses pressing against her thoughts, trying to flow in through the quantum scars she didn't know she had. The voices of every dead Sarah, every suspended body, every failed merged all screaming the same realization. We never had a choice. The network chooses you. It chose you before you were born. Emma raised the syringe. Welcome to the family, Mom. But Sarah's eyes locked on Rodriguez, whose seizure had stopped again. The girl's lips moved, mouthing words only Sarah could see. She's not Emma. She's never been Emma. Sarah's phone screen cracked spontaneously, displaying one final message. Timeline 8-1 initiated. Sarah Mitchell's daughter Emma died at age 3 from untreated infection. What you're seeing has been wearing her face for 25 years. The thing wearing Emma's face tilted its head, still smiling. Does it matter? I loved you better than she ever could have. The thing wearing Emma's face stepped forward. Its footfall made no sound, but Sarah felt the vibration through her bones' wrong frequency. Like a tuning fork struck underwater, the syringe in its hand bent light around it, creating a hole in Sarah's vision that hurt to perceive. 3-year-old Emma? Sarah's voice came out raw, grinding. Ear infection. I gave her children's Tylenol, put her to bed. She never woke up. The Emma thing's lips moved perfectly, but the voice originated somewhere behind Sarah's eyes. Meningitis, secondary to untreated otitis media. You thought she was being dramatic about the pain, thought she needed to tough it out, like you did at her age. Sarah's functioning hand found the gurney's metal rail. Cold, real. Unlike everything else dissolving around her, the suspended bodies below writhed in their tanks, neural activity spiking on monitors that materialized and vanished like broken memories. Rodriguez rolled onto her side, vomiting blue fluid that steamed against the floor. When she looked up, her face was partially transformed, left eye socket empty, revealing circuitry that pulsed with the same rhythm as the Emma thing's scars had. It feeds on guilt, Rodriguez gasped. Wires pushed through her gums when she spoke. Silver against pink. Has been feeding for 25 years, growing stronger every time you refused help, every time you... The Emma thing's hand passed through Rodriguez's chest. The girl froze mid-word, mouth open, that one human eye wide with the terror. Blue frost spread from the contact point, crystallizing blood in visible veins. Rude to interrupt. The Emma thing pulled its hand back, examining the frozen blood under its fingernails with academic interest. Where were we? Ah, yes. The real Emma died at 3:47 a.m., February 15th, 1999. You found her at 6:22 a.m., cold, lips blue, still holding her stuffed rabbit. What was its name? Mr. Hoppy. Sarah's tear ducts burned, but produced nothing. Her body was shutting down non-essential functions, preparing for something worse than death. Mr. Hoppy. Yes. The Emma thing's form flickered for one heartbeat. Sarah saw 3-year-old Emma standing there, pajamas soaked in blood and cerebrospinal fluid, holding a rotted stuffed rabbit, then back to adult Emma. Perfect and wrong. You broke 2 of her ribs. The cracking sound. Do you remember the cracking sound? Sarah remembered. Tiny bones snapping under her palms. The taste of her daughter's cold lips as she tried to breathe life back into a body that had been dead for hours. That's when I came through. The Emma thing touched the nearest wall, and it became transparent, revealing more tanks, more bodies. But these were smaller. Children, hundreds of them, all 3 years old, all with blonde hair like Emma's. The barrier thins when parents break. Your grief, your guilt, your desperate need to have her back. It created a door I walked through wearing her face. And you never questioned the miracle. Marcus Chen's 3 bodies converged into one, blood running from his ears. Timeline cascade accelerating, reality degradation at 37%. Sarah, you need to choose now. Choose what? Sarah's phantom shoulder felt like it was growing back, not healing, but filling with something alien. She could feel the other Sarah's consciousness pressing harder, their memories bleeding into hers. 1,000 birthdays, 1,000 weddings, 1,000 shoulder injuries, all happening simultaneously in her skull. The Emma thing held up the syringe again. Inside the not liquid, Sarah saw her grandmother Rose, but younger, maybe 30, standing in a basement that looked exactly like this one, but older, more primitive. Rose was injecting something into a small body on a table. The body's face was turned away, but Sarah recognized the pajamas. Emma's pajamas, the ones she died in. Your grandmother tried to bring back her sister first. The Emma thing explained. Margaret, age 3, died from untreated pneumonia. Rose succeeded in a way. The thing wearing Margaret's face lived for 40 years, teaching Rose everything about quantum bridging, timeline manipulation, the beautiful mathematics of grief. When Rose had you, she knew exactly what traits to encourage: pride, self-reliance, the inability to ask for help. You're saying she groomed me to create the perfect conditions for loss, to thin the barrier enough for a more complete manifestation. The Emma thing smile stretched wider than facial muscles should allow. But you exceeded expectations. You didn't just lose Emma. You lost her the exact same way Rose lost Margaret, the way Rose's mother lost Rose's aunt, the way 7 generations of women in your family lost daughters, always age 3, always from treatable infections, always because mother knew best. The floor cracked, not breaking, unmaking itself, molecules forgetting their bonds. Through the growing void, Sarah saw the deepest level of the basement, a single tank, massive, filled with something that might have been liquid or might have been concentrated darkness. Inside, suspended, was a child-sized skeleton wearing a hospital bracelet from 1857. The name was too faded to read, but Sarah knew the first, the original loss that started the cycle. We are the children who were never saved, the Emma thing said. And now its voice was a chorus: Emma, Margaret, Rose's aunt, dozens of 3-year-old girls speaking in unison. We are what grows in the space between a mother's pride and a daughter's grave, and through you we become corporeal permanently. Sarah's phone cracked and, dying, received one last message, video file. She played it without thinking, needing any anchor to reality. The screen showed her apartment from an outside perspective, a drone shot. Through her window, she could see herself on the bathroom floor 5 months ago, dying from the infection. But there was no Emma coming to save her, no intervention, just Sarah, dying alone. Body not discovered for 6 days. Timeline 8-1, Marcus whispered. The only timeline where you actually died when you were supposed to. No rescue, no network, no Emma thing to save you, because the real Emma never died. She lived, grew up, became a doctor in Boston, had 3 kids, never spoke to you after you missed her wedding because of a basketball tournament. Sarah's functioning neurons fired in patterns that created something like laughter. I'm already dead. 4 months, 3 days, 16 hours. The Emma thing checked a watch that existed only while being observed. You've been in the tank since then, processing, integrating, becoming part of the network. This conversation, this entire experience is happening in the space between your last heartbeat and your last brainwave. The cascade failure reached critical mass. The suspended bodies below opened their eyes simultaneously, all missing their left eyes, all staring at Sarah with the right ones. They spoke in perfect unison, but each voice was Sarah's own, at different ages. The injection isn't to join the network. The injection is to wake up, to accept that you're already dead, to stop fighting the integration. Sarah felt her consciousness fragmenting. She was 52 in her apartment. She was 28, giving birth to Emma. She was 3, dying from meningitis, her mother ignored. She was her grandmother, her great-grandmother, her daughter, her daughter's daughter, in timelines that shouldn't exist. All of them dying from pride, all of them saved by things wearing dead children's faces. But if I'm already dead, Sarah's words came out in multiple voices now, harmonizing with herself across timelines, then what happens if I refuse the injection? The Emma thing's perfect composure cracked just for a microsecond. Sarah saw beneath not a monster, not an alien, but worse, nothing, a void shaped like a daughter, an absence that had learned to walk and talk and pretend to love. Impossible. You can't refuse. The network won't allow. Sarah grabbed the syringe with her dead left hand, the hand that shouldn't exist, couldn't exist, but did, because she wasn't fully integrated yet. The nanoliquid inside recoiled from her touch, trying to phase through the glass. "Rodriguez," Sarah said. The frozen girl's one eye tracked to her. "You're not an anchor, are you?" "You're the antibody. The network's immune response that went rogue." Rodriguez's frozen mouth couldn't move, but her eye blinked once. "Yes." Sarah raised the syringe above her head. The Emma thing lunged forward, moving through Spirong, folding distance like paper, but Sarah was already falling backward through the dissolving floor, through the tanks of bodies, through layers of basement that existed in too many dimensions. As she fell, she heard Timeline Zidorzel, Sarah, flatline in her hospital room. The cascade failure began in earnest, every Sarah in every timeline dying simultaneously, their quantum entanglement pulling them into the same moment of death. Except Sarah, it was falling toward something else, something the network hadn't accounted for. In the deepest tank, that child-sized skeleton opened eyes it shouldn't have. Eyes that had been watching for 167 years, waiting for one Sarah to figure out the truth. "Hello, daughter," the skeleton said in Sarah's own voice. "Ready to learn what really happened to the children?" Sarah hit the liquid wrong, not water thicker, warmer, with the consistency of amniotic fluid. It forced itself into her lungs, through her nose, her mouth, her ports, the taste copper and formaldehyde and something sweet rotten like fruit left in sun too long. The skeleton floated before her, suspended by its own impossibility. Tendons that should have rotted decades ago held bones together. The hospital bracelet. Closer now. Read M. Mitchell, 1857. But the eyes were alive, wet, blinking with lids that materialized and dissolved with each closure. "Mary!" The skeleton's jaw moved without muscle, teeth clicking against each other. "Mary Mitchell, your great-great-great-grandmother. I died giving birth to your great-great-grandmother, or I was supposed to." Sarah tried to speak, but the fluid filled her throat. Her dead left arm moved on its own, drawing symbols in the liquid quantum equations she didn't know, but somehow understood. The syringe in her right hand pulsed, its contents trying to burn through the glass. "The midwife found me hemorrhaging." Mary's voice came from everywhere in the tank, vibrating through Sarah's bones. "She had a choice, save me or save the baby. She chose neither. She chose both. She chose wrong." Above them, reality continued collapsing. Sarah felt the other Sarahs dying, 8-7 heartbeats, stopping in synchronization. The Emma thing's shriek pierced through dimensions, a sound like glass grinding against teeth. Through the tank's transparent walls, Sarah saw it descending, but too slowly, fighting against something that pushed back. The midwife was something else. Mary's skeleton hand reached out, finger bones barely connected by wisps of tissue, something that fed on the space between life and death. It kept me alive enough to deliver the baby, dead enough to thin the barrier. The child lived. I existed, neither alive nor dead, suspended in the moment of choosing. Sarah's lungs should have been screaming for air, but the fluid oxygenated her blood directly through cellular osmosis. Her brain processed this impossibility by creating new neural pathways, quantum scarring in real time across her gray matter. Every daughter since carries it. Mary's skull tilted, vertebrae grinding. The potential for suspension, for existing between states, but the infections, the pride, the inability to ask for help, all symptoms. The real disease is older. We're incubators for things that shouldn't exist. The Emma thing crashed into the tank's outer wall, its perfect face pressed against the glass, features flattening, spreading like putty. Through its transparent skin, Sarah saw the real Emma, 3 years old, blue-lipped, chest caved in from failed sleep. The child's mouth opened. "Mommy, why didn't you save me?" Sarah's right hand squeezed the syringe hard enough to crack it. The quantum fluid inside began leaking through the fractures, each drop that touched the tank water creating small reality tears, windows to other timelines. In one, Emma lived to 40, cancer. In another, car accident at 16. In a third, suicide at 23. All the ways Emma could have died if she'd lived past 3. The children aren't dead. Mary's bones moved closer, and Sarah smelled grave earth. Despite being suspended in fluid, they're trapped in the choosing moment, every mother's decision to handle things alone, to not burden others, to be strong. It creates a pocket where the lost children gather. They want back in. They want the lives they should have had. Sarah's dead left hand moved again, writing, "But Emma thing isn't Emma." "No." Mary's jaw unhinged, showing a throat that shouldn't exist. Inside stars, Sarah saw stars, actual stars, burning in the void where organs should be. It's what grew in Emma's absence, your guilt and grief given form, wearing her face because that's what you needed to see. Every mother creates one. Mine still visits sometimes. The tank shuddered. Through the walls, Sarah saw Rodriguez breaking free from the ice, her transformed half now spreading wires, pushing through skin, replacing muscle with circuitry. The girl's mouth opened, releasing harmonics that shattered several suspended tanks above. Bodies spilled out, splashing into lower levels, some still connected to machines by umbilical thick cables. "The network isn't trying to save people," Mary continued. "It's harvesting the choosing moments, every prideful death, every refused help, every stubborn last stand, their fuel. For what? I never learned. The midwife died before telling me. Or perhaps she never knew herself." Sarah's vision split, one eye seeing the tank, the other seeing through every Sarah dying above. Timeline 0,000. Sarah flatlined. Timeline 01 followed immediately, like dominoes, but falling in all directions simultaneously. She felt each death individually: heart attacks, strokes, sudden infant death syndrome, somehow striking adult women, all at 3:47 a.m. in their respective timelines. The Emma thing's hands pushed through the tank wall, matter phasing incorrectly. Where it touched the fluid, ice crystals formed, but immediately melted into something that wasn't water, something that remembered being frozen and liquid simultaneously. "Mom." Voice harmonized with real Emma's last words, creating acoustic interference that made Sarah's eardrums rupture. Blood mixed with the tank fluid, turning sections pink. "You can't hide in the past. The injection will happen. The network demands it. Sarah looked at the cracked syringe. The quantum fluid inside had formed a perfect sphere. Ignoring the broken glass container, it floated between her fingers, rotating slowly, showing her reflections from timelines where she'd already accepted the injection. In each reflection, her face was peaceful, empty, gone. There's another way. Mary's skeleton suddenly had a muscle again, not healing, but remembering flesh. Patches of skin materialized and rotted in seconds, cycling through decomposition endlessly. The choosing moment works both directions. You can refuse to choose. Paradox. Sarah's left hand wrote, "System collapse." Yes. Mary smiled with lips that existed for just that expression before dissolving. The network depends on binary states, alive or dead, saved or lost, pride or surrender. But what if you chose neither? What if you remained in the choosing forever? The Emma thing's entire body pushed through the tank wall. It stood in the fluid without sinking, without floating, occupying space incorrectly. Behind it, through the tear it created, Sarah saw the basement transforming, the tanks merging, bodies fusing, the entire structure becoming something between architecture and organism. The injection connects you to all tellers. The Emma thing held out its hand, and the quantum sphere floated toward it. But you're already connected. You've always been connected. The injection just makes you stop fighting it. Rodriguez fell through the ceiling, her body now more machine than flesh. She hit the fluid and immediately began dissolving, but her one human eye found Sarah. Her mouth, still partially organic, formed words, "The children, they're not trying to return, they're trying to warn." The Emma thing's hand passed through Rodriguez's skull. The girl's transformation accelerated within seconds. She was nothing but circuitry and intent. A ghost. In the machine, literally. Her consciousness dispersed through the tank fluid, and Sarah felt her everywhere, in every molecule. "Choose," the Emma thing demanded. The quantum sphere spun faster, creating a whirlpool in the tank. Integration or dissolution, network or nothing. Sarah felt the last few Sarahs dying above. Wait for what? When they finished, she would be alone, the only Sarah left across all timelines. The final node in a network about to collapse. But Mary's bones gripped her shoulder, her missing shoulder. The one that didn't exist. Sarah felt it clearly. Fingers of bone pressing into muscle that had been carved away months ago. "The choosing moment," Mary whispered directly into Sarah's brain. "The midwife never told me her name, but she had a mark on her neck, a birthmark shaped like a rabbit." Sarah's blood turned to ice that didn't freeze. She knew that birthmark. She'd kissed it 1,000 times when Emma was a baby. Her daughter had been born with a birthmark shaped exactly like Mr. Hoppy, her favorite stuffed rabbit. The Emma thing's perfect face twitched. "You're remembering wrong. Trauma does that." But Sarah was looking at the skeleton's neck now. There, barely visible on ancient bone, was a mark, a discoloration in the calcium, rabbit-shaped, exactly like Emma's birthmark. "Every daughter," Mary said, and now her voice was young, terribly young. "Every daughter carries it forward. The midwife didn't come from outside. She came from within, from the future, from the past, from the moment that hasn't happened yet but always has." Sarah understood. The Emma thing wasn't wearing her daughter's face. It was wearing her daughter's future face. The face Emma would have worn if she'd lived long enough to go back, to become the midwife, to start the cycle that created herself. The quantum sphere exploded, not outward inward, collapsing into dimensions Sarah couldn't perceive. Each fragment pierced her retinas with information that shouldn't exist, Emma, at 40. Surgical mask over the rabbit birthmark, performing a C-section on a woman who looked like Sarah but older. Emma, at 60, injecting something blue into a child's spine. Emma, at 90, her birthmark spread across half her neck like cancer, standing over Mary Mitchell's birthing bed in 1857. You see it now. The Emma thing's perfect composure cracked, revealing something underneath that wasn't monstrous. It was exhausted. Centuries of exhaustion wearing a 28-year-old face. I'm not the villain, Mom. I'm the janitor, cleaning up the mess I created by trying to save myself from never being born. Sarah's ruptured eardrums regenerated wrong. She could hear colors now, taste sounds. The Emma thing's words were copper and ash and birthday cake left out in rain. Mary's skeleton fingers pressed deeper into Sarah's phantom shoulder, and she felt the bone conducting electricity directly into her nervous system. Not pain, memory. Mary's memory of the midwife leaning over her, face obscured by time light, saying, "Your daughter will live. Her daughter will live. Her daughter will live. The price is all of them dying." Temporal recursion. Rodriguez's dispersed consciousness whispered through the tank fluid, her voice coming from the molecules themselves. Emma dies at 3. Grows up in the spaces between time, goes back, becomes the midwife, creates the conditions for her own death. Circle has no beginning. The basement above continued collapsing into itself. Sarah watched through her split vision as the suspended bodies merged into something singular, a massive organ, beating like a heart, pumping quantum fluid through vessels that existed in 11 dimensions. Each pulse sent waves through the tank, and with each wave, Sarah saw another iteration, Emma saving herself, Emma causing her own death, Emma becoming the thing that would eventually become the thing that would eventually become Emma. But you're not Emma. Sarah's vocal cords were shredded from the fluid, but she spoke anyway, sound traveling through her bones. Emma died. Whatever you are started as Emma but became something else, something that forgot it was trying to save itself and started just perpetuating the cycle. The Emma thing's hand passed through Sarah's chest, not violently, gently, like reaching through water. Sarah felt fingers wrap around her heart, not squeezing but counting beats. 140,700,912. That's how many times your heart has beaten since Emma died. I've counted every one, waiting, watching you refuse help for minor injuries, major ones, emotional wounds that festered worse than any infection. Sarah's left hand, the dead one that couldn't exist, grabbed the Emma thing's wrist where it passed through her chest. The contact burned cold, like frozen nitrogen, like stellar void. The Emma thing's eyes widened, its first genuine expression of surprise in 25 years of pretending to be human. Impossible. That arm is gone. The muscles were necrotic. Dr. Chen removed infected tissue. Sarah's phantom fingers tightened, and she felt the Emma thing's quantum structure destabilizing under her grip. But the infection wasn't random. You caused it, which means you created the quantum scarring, which means the arm you destroyed still exists in the timeline where you didn't. Mary's skeleton laughed a sound like wind through a rib cage, which is exactly what it was. The choosing moment, child. Your mother found it. She can touch you because she exists in the space between having an arm and not having one, between infected and healthy, between proud and humble. She's becoming what I've been for 167 years suspended. The Emma thing tried to pull back, but Sarah's phantom arm held fast. Where they touched, reality stuttered. The tank fluid around them began boiling and freezing simultaneously, creating ice sculptures that melted before forming, forming before melting, caught in their own temporal loops. Timeline 847. The Emma thing's free hand reformed into something with too many fingers, reaching for Sarah's face. The last Sarah. When you die, the network collapses. No more interventions. No more saving prideful women from themselves. Millions will die. Let them. Sarah pulled the Emma thing closer, their faces inches apart, this close. She could see through its skin to the child underneath, 3-year-old Emma. Frozen at the moment of death, eyes with the betrayal of a mother who gave her Tylenol instead of antibiotics. Let them make their own choices, their own mistakes, their own graves. The basement oboe finished its transformation. The merged organ structure beat once, massive, shaking the entire building. Sarah felt it through the fluid, every Sarah who had ever lived. Their consciousness compressed into a single pulse of existence. They spoke in unison through the tank walls. Save us! From what? Sarah asked. From being saved? They answered. The Emma thing's perfect facade shattered completely. Underneath wasn't monster or child, but something between an Emma who had lived and died simultaneously for centuries, aging and regressing, learning and forgetting. Her face cycled through expressions too quickly for human perception. Infant curiosity, toddler rage, teenage defiance, adult exhaustion, elderly acceptance, all in microseconds. I just wanted to live. Its voice broke into harmonics, each tone a different age of Emma. When I figured out the loop, I thought I could break it, go back far enough, stop the first infection. But there is no first. It goes back forever. Every mother, every daughter, every prideful death, they're all the same death, happening simultaneously across all time. In Rodriguez's consciousness condensed partially, forming a face in the fluid, just eyes and a mouth, like a reflection in disturbed water. The children she mentioned, the ones trying to warn us, they're not the dead children. They're the children who were never born because their mothers died too soon. Sarah's phantom arm pulled the Emma thing into an embrace. It didn't resist, couldn't, maybe, or didn't want to. Against her chest, she felt it sobbing not with lungs, but with its entire quantum structure, reality itself grieving for what couldn't be undone. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered into what might have been hair or might have been probability strands. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. Sorry I was too proud to admit I didn't know what was wrong. Sorry I let you die alone in your crib while I slept in the next room. Sure you'd be fine by morning. The Emma thing's form solidified briefly into 3-year-old Emma, fevered and confused. Mommy, my ear hurt so bad. I know, baby, I know. Mary's skeleton moved, positioning itself behind them both. The choosing moment, you can stay here forever, suspended between saving her and letting her go. That's what breaks the cycle, not choosing either option. But through the tank walls, Sarah saw something that made her phantom arms spasm. The merged organ above had grown eyes, thousands of them, all her eyes from different timelines. And they were looking at something behind her, something in the deepest part of the tank that she hadn't noticed. Another skeleton, smaller than Mary, child-sized, jawed fresh, still with strips of flesh clinging to it. It was wearing Emma's pajamas from the night she died. But the bones were wrong, too many ribs, femurs that bent at impossible angles, a skull with 3 eye sockets. Mom, this Emma's voice came from the fresh skeleton, from the Emma thing in her arms, from the organ above, from every molecule of fluid. Which one of us is real? Sarah turned to look at the new skeleton fully, in its 3 eye sockets. She saw herself reflected infinitely, but in each reflection, she was holding a different Emma, some alive, some dead, some neither, some both. All of them were reaching for the same thing, a syringe that had reformed in the center of the tank, floating equidistant from all versions, containing something that wasn't the quantum serum, but wasn't not it either. "Choose," all the Emmas said at once. "Choose which daughter you save." But Sarah looked closer at the syringe. Inside, suspended in the not liquid, was a single ear infection bacteria, the exact strain that had killed Emma. Still alive after 25 years, still spreading, the bacteria moved inside the syringe, not swimming, rotating, dividing, each split cell carrying memories of Emma's inner ear, the fever that cooked her brain, the moment her neurons stopped firing in sequence and started firing all at once, creating a seizure that looked like sleep to a mother checking through a cracked door at 2 a.m. Sarah's phantom hand released the Emma thing. Her fingers, both real and impossible, reached for the syringe. The fluid around it recoiled, creating a perfect sphere of emptiness. Inside that void, she heard Emma's last breath, not from 25 years ago, but from now, from always, a continuous exhalation that had never stopped. Streptococcus pneumonia. Mary's skeleton moved closer, bones clicking like an abacus calculating death. But changed, evolved. It doesn't just infect tissue anymore. The three-eyed skeleton Emma crawled forward, pajama fabric disintegrating with each movement. Where the cloth fell away, Sarah saw the bones were inscribed with medical records every Emma who had ever died, would die, was dying right now. Temperature readings carved into femurs, white cell counts etched on vertebrae, time of death tattooed on the inside of the skull, visible through the eye sockets, 3 to 47 a.m., always 3:47 a.m. It infects possibilities, the Emma thing said, its form stabilizing into something between ages, not young, not old, but every age simultaneously occupying the same space. The bacteria learn to exist in quantum states. Every time a mother's pride prevents treatment, it spreads to another timeline through the wound of what should have been. Sarah's real hand touched the syringe. The glass was warm, body temperature, pulsing with a heartbeat that matched Emma's exactly. Inside, the bacteria had formed colonies that looked like constellations, like neural networks, like the face of every child who had died from treatable infections because their parents knew better, were stronger, could handle it themselves. Rodriguez's consciousness condensed further, rebuilding herself molecule by molecule from the tank fluid. But she came back wronged, one half human, one half machine. The divide running perfectly down her center. The network isn't saving people. It's the bacteria's reproductive system. Every quantum bridge, every intervention, spreads it further. The organ above beat again. The sound traveled through the fluid as pressure waves that Sarah felt in her teeth, her bones, the hollow where her shoulder muscle used to be. With each beat, she saw through more timelines. Sarah's dying, Sarah's surviving, Sarah's who never existed because their mothers died in childbirth, Sarah's who lived forever because they accepted the injection, Sarah's who became the injection. "Choose," the three-eyed Emma skeleton said, its voice like milk teeth falling onto porcelain. "Choose which daughter lives." They all live. Sarah pulled the syringe free from its void. The bacteria inside reacted to her touch, forming patterns that spelled words in languages that hadn't been invented yet. They all die. That's the point. The choosing is what feeds it. The Emma thing laughed, but it came out as crying, or maybe both, or maybe neither. Then don't choose. Stay suspended. Mary did it for over a century. No. Sarah looked at Mary's skeleton, really looked. The bones were hollow, she realized. Not from decay, but from consumption. Something had been eating her from inside for 167 years. leaving just enough to maintain the shape of a person. Mary didn't suspend herself. She was suspended, kept alive as an incubator. Oh, Mary's jaw fell off. It hit the tank floor and dissolved, revealing it had been made of compressed bacteria colonies the entire time. The rest of her skeleton began following suit. Femur, rib cage, spine, all dissolving into bacterial suspension that mixed with the tank fluid. "You're not Mary Mitchell!" Sarah's voice split into harmonics she hadn't known she could produce. "You're what grew in her place, what the bacteria became after feeding on her choosing moment for over a century. The thing that had been Mary reformed, but not as bones, as truth, a writhing mass of bacterial consciousness that had learned to think, to speak, to feel by consuming human doubt, human pride, human failure. It shaped itself into a mouth just long enough to say, 'We are what you create,' when you refuse to admit weakness. We are the infection you can't treat because you won't admit you're infected." The tank walls cracked, not from pressure, but from realization. Every Sarah in the network understood simultaneously they hadn't been infected by bacteria. They had been creating it. Every moment of pride, every refused help, every "I can handle this myself" generated more. The bacteria were made of crystallized stubbornness, given form and hunger. "The midwife," Sarah said, understanding flooding through her like the tank fluid had flooded her lungs. There never was a midwife, just the first woman who was too proud to call for help during childbirth. Her pride became bacterial, infected her daughter, and every daughter since. The Emma thing nodded, its face cycling through expressions of relief and horror. "I went back to stop it, but going back created it. The midwife was me. But I was the midwife because the midwife was me." Bootstrap paradox made flesh, Rodriguez. Fully reformed, but still split down the middle. Pointed to the syringe in Sarah's hand. The bacteria inside. "It's not from Emma's infection. It's from yours. From the night you tried to treat your shoulder yourself. It learned your specific frequency of pride." Sarah looked at the syringe again. The bacteria had formed into a perfect replica of her own neurons, dendrites reaching out, synapses firing. It was thinking her thoughts, making her choices, being her in microscopic form. "If I inject this, you become the network." All three Emmas spoke in unison, the thing, the skeleton, and something else, something that had always been there but only now made itself visible. A fourth Emma, standing outside the tank, outside possibility. This one was exactly 3 years old, healthy, alive, wearing different pajamas. The pajamas from the timeline where Sarah had swallowed her pride and taken her to the emergency room. "Hello, Mommy," the healthy Emma said. "I've been waiting for you to see me." Sarah's legs gave out. She sank in the tank fluid, the syringe floating from her loosened grip. This Emma, this living, healthy Emma stood on the other side of the glass that shouldn't exist, couldn't exist, but did. And behind her, Sarah saw herself, another Sarah, one who had never lost a daughter, never been infected, never learned what pride could cost. That Sarah was graying, tired, ordinary. She was also holding a syringe. "Every choice creates a split," the healthy Emma explained, pressing her small hand against the tank glass. "In one timeline, you save me. In another, you don't. But what if there's a timeline where both happen, where you simultaneously save and lose me, where I die and live, where the infection spreads and is cured?" The other Sarah, the one who had saved Emma, raised her syringe. Inside it, Sarah could see antibiotics, simple antibiotics that would have cost $12 at any pharmacy, Required one phone call to the pediatrician, taken 10 minutes to administer. We can merge the timelines, both Sarahs said simultaneously, their voices creating interference patterns that made the tank fluid ripple. Collapse the paradox. Save all the Emmas by saving none of them. But the healthy Emma shook her head. That's not how it works, Mommy. You can't save me retroactively. I'm only alive in timelines where you were never too proud to ask for help. And you can only exist in timelines where you were. The bacteria in the floating syringe had formed into words now, clearly visible. Pride goeth before the fall. Sarah laughed. The sound came out wrong. Too many harmonics. Too many timelines of laughter overlapping. Biblical? The bacteria's quoting the Bible at me. Not quoting, Mutte, the Emma thing said. That passage was written by someone who survived their own infection. A warning that became scripture. How many prayers are just people begging not to be too proud to ask for help? The organ above beat faster. Sarah felt the network accelerating, pulling her consciousness in all directions. She was splitting, experiencing every moment of her life simultaneously. Birth, first steps, first basketball game, wedding, Emma's birth, Emma's death, the infection, the surgery, this moment, this choice, this impossible choice between syringes, between daughters, between prides. 10 seconds until cascade completion, Rodriguez announced, her machine half displaying the countdown in binary that her human eye translated to tears. Whatever you're going to do. Sarah grabbed both syringes, the one with bacteria, the one with antibiotics from the other timeline. They shouldn't both exist in the same space. Touching them together should create a paradox that unravels everything, But as her fingers closed around both, she felt Emma's small hand from inside the tank, Emma's healthy hand from outside the tank, Emma's skeletal hand, Emma's quantumate hand, all of them touching hers at the same point. Together, all the Emmas asked. No, Sarah said, understanding finally dawning. Not together, not apart, but the countdown reached 0. The cascade completed. Tips. Every Sarah across every timeline died at exactly the same moment, except Sarah 847, who was holding 2 syringes that couldn't exist together, touched by daughters who were alive and dead, and neither and both. She felt herself beginning to understand what came next. But first, she had to decide which syringe to drop. I dropped both syringes. They shattered against tank glass, bacteria, and antibiotics, mixing into something neither cure nor disease. The Emmas, all of them smiled as they dissolved. It, not dying, choosing. The network collapsed, but didn't end. It transformed into something simpler. Memory. I woke in my apartment, shoulder gone, Emma still dead. Rodriguez recovered, no mysterious basement. But I remember the taste of timeline fluid, the weight of phantom arms. Every morning at 3:40 I feel them, all the Sarahs who asked for help, who didn't, who never needed to. We're still connected, not through quantum scars, but through the simple fact that pride kills quietly. And sometimes the bravest thing is admitting you're scared. Emma's been dead 25 years. I talked to her anyway. This story was inspired by true medical cases of necrotizing fasciitis, created solely for entertainment purposes. This narrative does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of self-treatment for medical conditions or harmful behavior of any kind. All characters and events depicted are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Always seek immediate professional medical attention for any health concerns.